on YouTube. There we go. Live on YouTube.
All right. You want to start us off, Myrna?
Nirvana. I like your shirt, Nirvana. What does that mean?
Well, that's heaven in Buddhism.
Mhm.
When you arrived home, you're in Nirvana.
Yes. Okay. My girlfriend Gloria, who's very likes the Indian culture, always makes the statement, I don't think we've reached nirvana yet. So now I know what that means. Okay. I knew it was a spiritual term relating to God, but specifically it's heaven. Okay, that's interesting.
Well,
You know,
if you
most people, if they saw that T-shirt, would think about the band and Kurt Cobain. So,
probably true. And also, if you're home and feel peaceful, you're in Nirvana. You know, what is Nirvana? Something far away? No, it's right here when I'm at peace with all. Make me one with all.
I was engrossed in the talk just before that we were reading from Bill's excerpts about Helen Schiffman. It was really very fascinating because through the years, I've always been interested in Helen, and I've listened to Bill Thetford. Not Bill Thetford. This is really, but I'm getting his viewpoint. But I had listened to tapes where Helen described her feelings and how she, her experience with the Course in Miracles, and certainly Ken Wapnick often spoke about her as well. And what a fascinating individual she was, because she developed the Course in Miracles. I mean, hearing a voice in your head, you had to really understand that it was something that you was slated to do somehow. She accepted it, knowing that it probably caused a lot of confusion, a lot of and a fear in her, not understanding it completely, yet a knowing that um, she was supposed to complete this mission. I believe I heard it said that she had said that in listening to one of her talks. That's where I got this from. I heard it somewhere, that somewhere in time she had agreed to do this. Interesting. I just think the whole process is interesting. And Bill's resistance to speaking Jesus. I know when I describe the Course in Miracles to someone, I don't like to use Jesus. They don't understand it. People sort of form their own actualizations, conceptions of Jesus, and suddenly they get turned off. They don't understand it. I try to just explain the Course in Miracles from a point that it's all about love, forgiveness, and it's a very deep, satisfying teaching. And certainly I adhere to it. They know that. But interestingly, I wonder at what point she was able to identify the voice of Jesus. Isn't that interesting? Do you have any thoughts about that, Dove?
Well, she just called it the voice. She really didn't say hi, Jesus, and she didn't use the word Jesus. I mean, she called it the voice, and I don't think she really acknowledged him until they got to about chapter 5, and that's why it actually says the first 5 chapters. It's not written in iambic pentameter. It's written because she was struggling to. She was kind of resisting, so the words didn't come out in poetry. So she struggled. She felt that he didn't keep his word to her. She was resisting all the way. By the way, of course, Bill Tedford was the other way around. He kind of accepted that this came from beyond this world.
Yes, she had developed a personal relationship with Jesus, and at times she didn't want to do it. I think I heard it said too that when she decided, she could pick it up at will, she could put it down at will. The dictation would continue whenever she was ready for it. But at one point, she became exasperated and said, "Forget it, I'm not doing it." And she put it down for a while, and then she realized she couldn't sleep. There was interference in her mind that she knew she had to pick it up. He wouldn't leave her alone for a long period of time without causing her to complete this Course in Miracles that she was so fantastically completed eventually with Bill Thetford. I mean, it was just an amazing, work of art. That's how I see the Course in Miracles. It's a work of art. It's poetic. It's the atomic atomic pentameter. Atomic pentameter. Yeah, is the word that is the flow of speech that Shakespeare used, and that sort of flow, that recognition that it's not exactly the kind of English that we use, but yet it's still, when you get into it, it's easily understood. Really, when I say easily understood, you have to really go through the Course in Miracles to truly understand its meaning. I found for me that it took years to really grasp its meaning, and the meaning is not really difficult. The meaning is not unavailable to us. Once we really get into the healing that we're beginning to feel. At one point, one of the lessons said, okay, now you're beginning to feel peaceful at this point. You've gotten this far. And I remember agreeing with that, feeling, oh, yes, 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 how right you are. Everything he was telling me in the Course in Miracles was resonating as relating to me, a truthful part of me that was beginning to come out of the debris, that the truth was so deeply buried in me. And when the truth started to emerge, I began to feel this peace. And that's something that I didn't want to let go of, the peace that it was giving me. And my husband even saw it in me, that I was I was changing. I wasn't erupting. I wasn't losing my patience as much. I was I would sit back and listen. I would embrace the love that I was feeling from, I developed a connection with Jesus, understanding that this was not a new connection. This was something that I must have been experiencing throughout my creation, someone that I must have known, because I enveloped that, even though I was taught differently through my bringing up years, that Jesus is just a name in in the Christian theology or religion. When I began to feel the connection, then I knew that he was there for everyone.
Yeah, actually, we are everyone. I know in this dream, or this way of looking, which is the way the ego sees. I'm over here, you're over there. We're separated. We're different. And he's really speaking to all. All as one. I was looking at today's lesson 177. And it's part of that review. God is but love, and therefore so am I. So, I looked at it again. We've been saying it for years and years. In fact, one of the teachers here, Peter, he actually took the initials of the acronym, and God is but love, and therefore so am I. And it comes out to the word Gablatzai. And he gave himself that name. That was his name at Pal Talk at ACIM Gather. Gablatzai Fishman, and his last name was Fishman, Peter Fishman, and it was Gablatzai Fishman, and everyone really called him Gablatzai. In fact, you see him today on the internet. He's still Gablatzai. He actually worked for Bill Free for a while. He lives up in Massachusetts. He used to hang out at Vicky Poppy's. Anyway, it's a long story. getting back to what we're talking about, God is, and my new way of looking at is, since we've been talking about Amanda Stokes' book,
Isn't it?
Is
Mhm.
your only business. So isness is really what I've been talking about for a long time. When you use the word God is, it's like twice removed from the experience of what Jesus is referring to. God, the word God, is like a noun, like Myrna's a noun, Dove is a noun, Regis is a noun. But the is not a noun. The is a verb. So, God is means this is eternal. This is changeless. It doesn't stop what Myrna is, Regis is, Dev is, Lynn is. There's that's a belief in separation. So the isness is all there really is. In fact, he uses the expression in the course, chapter 14, section 1. He says, truth is, period. So he's given, even the word truth. What does truth really mean? It's another noun or adjective. It's frozen in time. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, your truth is different than my truth. That's what the ego says. That's one of the laws of chaos. Everyone has a different truth. Hey, there's the Republicans and the Democrats. Everyone has a different truth. No, truth is. It's an isness. It's nothing to do with I believe in this or you believe in that. And those are beliefs. And you know how I feel about the word belief. So I was looking at it and it says, God is but love, and therefore so am I. Now, the word love is another one of those words. It's a noun. Come on. Oh, I love you. I hope you love me too. So that's special love. The world, we got married because we love each other. I love my family. I love my children. I love God. No, that's the ego's idea of love. So I went a little deeper. This was last night. I was kind of doing it late at night. Actually, sometime during the time we're listening to The Age of the Heart. You might say, well, how come you weren't listening? Well, this is what came up for me. The Age of the Heart. I have a thing on that as well. We place our hand on our heart, and as we start, we actually give gratitude for our higher altitude. Now, that comes from Mandy Solf. It's one of her prayers. I kind of doctored it up a bit. But on the other hand, our willingness to be oneness is really what this course is about. You can't be talking about me, the person, wants to learn what Jesus is saying. That's a concept. Jesus is not into concepts. Concepts are of the ego. When you get into what Jesus is saying, we all are one. And the word love, he says in the introduction, what is all love, which is all encompassing, has no opposite. Oh, really? So this is not the love hate of the ego thought system. Well, I love you. I hope you love me too, because if you don't, I don't think I love you. No, this love is all encompassing. All encompassing means there's nothing outside of the love of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. We are one. I thought I would just share that for the fun of it. Over to you.
Yeah, you talk about God and love, and today's lesson is all about death. And how can we really feel love if we're afraid of death, which the Course in Miracles gets into the fact that, that we really, we die all the time because, what is death? It appears, as it says here, as sadness, fear, anxiety, doubt, anger, foolishness, lack of trust, concern for bodies, envy, and all forms in which to be as you are not may come to tempt you. And are we all tempted by every one of those different words, different thoughts that, that we're really, it's very difficult to explain love when you're experiencing all of the rest. And that's why love is put in a separate category, love, fear, two separate categories. That always fascinated me because, if we're not feeling love, then we're feeling fear. I don't think in this lifetime any of us could ever really experience the truth of what real love is. I think there might have been people who have these great sages that really, understand or feel you have to leave yourself open to the point where nothing else enters except the feeling of what love truly is. And yeah, we use the word really a lot in this life. I mean, I'm always, professing love, feeling admiration for someone, or feeling closeness for someone, or people that are, that I want to embrace, and I say I love you, and I do, But where is it coming from? It's coming from the heart, but the heart is just an organ. That's really what it is, the truth of what love is. And I understand that. I don't think that we can really truly experience the understanding of what love is, because I think there's too much fear to get through, because if it's not love, it's fear. And then you talk about God. Well, this whole lesson does get into God, because if there is death, then if we can die, then God can die too, and God is no longer alive. And what could be more fearful than that? Because without God, we're alone in this world, experiencing all the fears and the devastation of what the world really is, and we're experiencing that. It's very hard to separate the world from heaven, the world from what is given to us to feel out of this world. And that's why the Course in Miracles is so extraordinary, because it does give us the opportunity to recognize that, to see it, and we can, embrace it. But it takes practice. That's what it is. It's a course in practice as well. It says right here on the second page, either all things die or else they live and cannot die. No compromise is possible. For here again, we see an obvious position, which we must accept if we be sane. What contradicts one thought entirely cannot be true unless its opposite is proven false. That's the mind, it's the ego. The idea of the death of God is so preposterous that even the insane have difficulty in believing it. Well, I'm glad to hear that. For me, it's true. It's just so preposterous, the idea of God being dead. But it has to be a very fearful thought. For it implies that God was once alive and somehow perished, killed apparently by those who did not want him to survive. Their stronger will could triumph over his, and so eternal life gave way to death, and with the Father died the Son as well. So here we're talking absolute fear, the death of God, the death of his Son. What is there to hold on to? What is there to really feel to keep us safe? And
Yeah, okay. Yeah, actually, nothing in this world can keep you safe. I don't want to go into the metaphysics truly. And metaphysics says there is no world. So what do I pretend I want to be safe in a world that doesn't even exist? I think the idea the Course is presenting is the only way to let go of this world is to enter into this holy instant of now, where time, where time does not exist. Where time does not exist, it's almost like a cross. There's a horizontal axis, which is time, and that's where the ego lives, and it fills our mind with all kinds of thoughts, and those thoughts get us into trouble, and we get angry and upset. And I always say, be grateful for your upsets. Be grateful for your triggers, things that jar you, because they're jarring you to make you aware that you're still believing in things that aren't real. You still have a belief system. Of course, a belief system is a system of lies. And recently I looked at the word tolerance, mainly because of Mandy's book. And, you know, the word tolerance, which is the third of the 10 characteristics of God's teachers, it starts first with trust. And of course, the Course says trust would heal all problems now. Trust would clear up all problems now. We just don't trust. And the reason we don't trust is exactly what it is that you said, by the way. We live in fear. So fear is just another word for distrust. You can't trust when you're in fear. Fear is just a word for distrust. Yeah, here is the thing on trust again. I'll put it up here so everyone can see it. Trust would settle every problem now. And you find that in chapter 26, section 8. But we just don't trust. And then it says, only the trusting can afford to be honest. Now, honesty is the second of the 10 characteristics. Now, what is honesty? But consistency. You know, it's not that I'm honest. I wouldn't return somebody's dollar who lives a mile away like Abe Lincoln. You know, no, it's the consistency of mind that I don't waver between good and bad and right and wrong. I see all as equal or the same. And that's honesty. The third of the 10 characteristics is tolerance. And because of Amanda's poem on tolerance, I recognize that maybe, well, she made me look up tolerance in the 10 characteristics. And it's only because of intolerance that we judge other people. We're intolerant of anything that is different, that doesn't look like us, doesn't talk like us, doesn't believe in what I believe in. I'm intolerant of that, and I am afraid of that, and I will attack that, just like, you know, I attack some monster that's in my environment. I don't want to be hurt by something that's strange. And that's where all judgment comes from. And only judgment can hurt us. Only judgment tells you that in lesson 198. Only your judgment can injure you. Only your forgiveness can set you free. Okay. So Happy just knocked over a whole bunch of stuff. Happy, you've interrupted my line of thought. Over to you, Myrna.
Happy is with you all the time.
Yeah, he said enough of that stuff. He said.
Yeah. Well, well, I think he feels the peace, the tranquility that you feel. I think you're exuding that. He's understanding that. Yeah. And that's right. That's Happy. He trusts. That's what's so wonderful about our pets. They trust, don't they? They're completely trusting. And that makes them so lovable. I had my little trusty Rusty, his name was Rusty, for 17 years. And you learn so much from them, really, because they are, they're unequivocal in their absolute devotion, because they trust. It's very, very hard to trust in the world, isn't it? We have to learn to do that, to trust the world. That's the hard part, really. And that is because if we don't, if we're not of the world and live in the world, recognizing that the world is really forgiven, we don't, it's a hard concept to reveal to ourselves, really, even in our thoughts. Can the world be trusted? Because everything that seems to appear in the world doesn't seem to be peaceful. And when things are not peaceful, they're threatening. When things are threatening, it's fearful and so forth. But it's wonderful to get to that point where there. Don't fear, have trust in the world. It says here, in fact, one of the characteristics of God's teachers, and the teachers of God have trust in the world because they have learned it is not governed by the laws the world made up. Once we learn that then there is no fear. If we learn and we know that the world is not governed by all the laws that seem to be running the world, that seem to be driving it into the dust for the most part, once we learn that that can't be so, it's impossible, then we can really trust that we're safe in the world. So and that's something that we need to practice as well. It is governed by the power that is in them, but not of them. Right, to live in the world, not of the world. It is in this power that keeps all things safe. It is through the power that the teachers of God look on a forgiven world. When this power has once been experienced, it is impossible to trust one's own petty strength again. Now, isn't that true? And these are the words I love, because here it is again, the next words. Who would attempt to fly with the tiny wings of a sparrow when the mighty power of an eagle has been given him? Those words I always remembered. If you asked me to find them, I couldn't. I knew they exist somewhere in the Course in Miracles, but here they are. And that is really such a great analogy because we recognize that to fly with the wings of a sparrow is really to trust in our own petty strengths. When we're given the wings of an eagle to fly, to soar, what is an eagle? An eagle soars, and an eagle is strong, and to equate ourselves with an eagle is really a wonderful feeling because it tells us that our own petty strengths can't be depended on. We can't depend on ourselves. I think every single time that I've ever tried to depend on myself without really asking for help, I've been disappointed. Whether it be in anything really that I've attempted to do without some sort of indication to me, to myself, that I've got the glory of God with me, the wings of an eagle, the glory of God. And if we really become reliant on that, it helps to assuage our fears. And so and here it tells us too, when this power has once been experienced, it is impossible to trust one's own petty strength again, which I just said. And who would place his faith in the shabby offerings of the ego when the gifts of God are laid before him? What is that induces them to make the shift? And those words alone, if we could embrace those words alone, then we got everything, we got it all. Those few words really are so healing, because it tells us, that the gifts of God are here for us to experience.
Yeah, the gifts of God is basically trust. Either I'm trusting in God or I'm trusting in my little small self. And he tells you if you're trusting in your little small self, you have a lot to be afraid of. He actually says that in lesson 47. But if you're trusting in something greater than yourself, you can let go and let God. I'm going to go a little bit further than the 12 o'clock I originally mentioned, to make up for my lapse of sharing earlier when Happy jumped all over me and knocked over a whole bunch of things. But anyway, he's doing the same thing now, but I'm not going to let that bother me at this point. I put up on the board about the holy instant is a time in which you both receive and give perfect communication. And I think we're all into that. Actually, I sent that to Brooklyn last night after our meeting, because she had said, she said, when I use my voice and I speak, she said, I'm all over the place. I don't really speak well. And we all told her, no, that's whatever you do is perfect. But of course, her poetry is beyond amazing, So she's really a poet, and maybe she knows it, but she's a little upset about the way she speaks. So I sent her this and said, in the holy instant, and the only time the holy instant exists is right here and now. It's a time in which you receive and give in perfect communication. And then I wrote it down here, in which your mind is open both to receive and to give. It's the recognition that all minds are in communication. So it's not that my mind and your mind, no, actually, in truth, all minds are connected. So if I can get myself into the here and now, and the only thing that keeps me from the here and now is listening to my thoughts and thinking my thoughts are real. They're not my thoughts. They're the ego's thoughts. And we spent a whole last night, Monday night, talking about, if your thoughts enter the front door, and just don't serve them tea. Let them pass right on through. Go out the back door. Don't entertain your thoughts. Don't analyze. The ego, well, what does this mean? Let me try to understand this. I don't understand it. The Son of God doesn't need to understand anything. He already has all now. The knowledge of God is the Son's knowledge. That's the knowledge of heaven. It has nothing to do with understanding concepts or form. And now then it says, therefore seeks to change nothing, but merely to accept everything. Biggie. It doesn't look to change anything. That's why he says, I need do nothing can save you a century, but merely to accept everything. And then I follow that with all, merely to accept everything as all. This is all together or not at all. And that reminds me, of course, my favorite paragraph. Hey, Dove, what can you not accept? So it's in our willingness to accept. And that's the one thing the ego doesn't ever want to, it doesn't want to accept the isness. It wants to resist the isness. Notice there is an is in the middle of resist. And, it's like, I have my own way of looking at this. And so it doesn't accept the laws of God. I have my own laws, you and me are different, laws of chaos. So then I just want to add one more thing over here, and that's on tolerance, which I was just about to get to. And tolerance is the third of the 10 characteristics of God's teachers. And let's just take a look. God's teachers do not judge. To judge is to be dishonest. Now we're going back to consistency, which is honesty. So without the trust, you can't be honest, and without honesty, you can't be tolerant. For the judge to judge is to assume a position you don't have. Oh, well, I think that I know all there is to know about everybody, No, everybody is what I am. So I don't know, whenever you speak about anybody, you're speaking about yourself. That's the isness. You say God is, I am, we are one. And then it says judgment without self-deception is impossible. Wow. Judgment implies that you've been deceived in your brothers. If you've been deceived in your brothers, how could you not have been deceived in yourself? Judgment implies a lack of trust. He's going over the same words over and over. If you lack trust, you cannot be consistent, because you're shifting from one foot to the other, from one thought to another, thinking that you're right and others are wrong. And then it goes on to say, and trust remains the bedrock of the teachers of God's whole thought system. Let this be lost, and all his learning goes out the window. Without judgment are all things equally acceptable. What? Let me look at that again. Without judgment, which comes from a dishonest mind, which means I don't trust anybody. I don't trust God. I don't trust what do you mean trust God? I don't even know if there is a God. Without judgment are all things equally acceptable. Well, that's a good word, acceptable. What can you not accept if you knew that everything that happens is happening for you? For who could judge otherwise? Without judgment are all men brothers. For who is there who stands apart? Judgment destroys honesty and shatters trust. Oh my God. I mean, it's so perfect in his looking at the 10 characteristics of God. No teacher of God can judge and hope to learn. You gotta laugh. You simply gotta laugh. And I'm kind of complete at this point. If Mikhail, Regis, Lynn, anybody, Sharon, if you want to jump in, please do. We really have a whole hour, and maybe Myrna will hang in, but I have a previous engagement. I go on very shortly in another Zoom session for Jennifer Havoc.
What is, does, that's from Est, isn't it?
That's right. And S is either Earhart Seminars Training, EST, or it means it is in Latin. It is. It's an isness. Maybe that's where I got the isness thing. Yeah. In S, S whole thing breaks down to the way it happened is the only way it could have happened, because the ego said, "Oh, if only this happened, if only that, if only if he didn't do this, I would have been much better." No. The way it happened is perfect for the lessons you came here to learn. I hope that's helpful on it is from Est. And anyone have any thoughts or questions? I do have to leave at this
All
point.
right.
I'll probably
Thank you, Dov. I appreciate you hanging out. Are we gonna get is there a recording? I'm sure there will be, but more than likely we'll have to pay for it. I'm not sure.
Well, I don't think we have to pay. I don't think I'm going to get it until the end of the year. I've asked for recordings, and she doesn't give me anything. I'm talking about other people's recordings, like Alvin Cohen, John Mundy, but she doesn't give the things out. I don't know if I'm going to get mine.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Dov. And if anybody wants to go on, we can definitely continue if anyone has a topic or wants to continue. I have not heard from Rowan for well over a week. And I have texted him. Ozzy suggested we get a hold of his daughter. I don't, I have a real concern about that because, you know, I don't feel comfortable. I mean, if Dove disappeared, I'd be comfortable going to his daughter and asking her where the hell is he. But she's, a young girl, and the only way I know her is I follow her on TikTok. So it's not like not like we're friends or she even knows who I am. So I'm just worried some strange woman starts sending her uh, messages saying, "Where's your dad?" I'm afraid that would freak her out, and then that's the reason I haven't done it. So, obviously, if I was led to do it, I would definitely. And believe me, I've done, even more intrusive things in the past where I've just thought, it's okay to contact people about certain things and that were really none of my business. And as far as Wayne goes, I just trust that he's okay, and that whatever is happening is for the best, and that he'll return when he can. It's happened before in the past, so that's just how we have to be. So does anybody have any topic that they'd like to discuss, or?
Why don't we continue with what we were doing before? You were reading Bill Thetford's story about the Course in Miracles. You want to continue that or take that up next week? Just a suggestion.
Yeah, I don't know how Sharon would feel about that. We could do that for a while. I definitely wouldn't mind. Regis, do you have anything you'd like to share? Wow, what is that? Really cool picture. It's coming clearer. I see two instances of Regis here, so that's a possibility too. Um, and if not, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and stop the YouTube